So with that, I'd like to welcome Marcus Dickinson. How you doing today, Marcus?
It's been a day, but glad to be here, Craig. Sorry about the confusion, the little mix up there, but pretty excited for today's session. So thank you to everybody that stuck around. Appreciate that.
We're pretty much starting just on time anyway after my intro, so I think we're all good. So we're talking about buying leads from Facebook. How does that work?
Yeah, well, okay, let's get right into it because one of the most interesting questions I get asked, like at every event I've gone to without fail, whether it's yours or other events or anything else, is they ask, where do you get your leads from? What's the best way to get leads? How do you get a qualified lead? Where do you buy your list from? How much do you spend on a list, et cetera, et cetera? And my answer is the same every time. And it's amazing the kind of looks you get because I'll have someone say, so where do you get your leads? And I'll literally just turn around and go, Facebook. And they just look at you like, no, I didn't ask for your Facebook page. Where do you get your leads from? How do you get your leads? So essentially what I want to do is I'm going to walk you through a deck that I actually teach on this. And it's how you can take zero knowledge, like zero knowledge of who your avatar is in any way. You don't need to know if they're male, female, old, young. You don't need to know anything. All you need to have an idea of is where you want to target. So what I'm going to do is walk through a strategy that's going to show you how 3 days and $100 can get you about 200,000 qualified leads depending on your business. And we'll discuss what qualified means and why Facebook. And it's a fun little trick I learned. So what I'm going to do is open up this deck, and if you can let me know, Craig, as the questions come in, I'll do my best to keep an eye on both. Okay.
Yeah, and just as you get going, I was chatting a little bit at the beginning with everyone, and we have, just so you know, Eli happens to be in the graphic design, print, and web business.
Oh, perfect.
Peter is a self-employed nerd, and he's looking
That's
for
fine.
other sources of income. Uh,
Perfect. Well, and this is the first step that I tell everybody. Like if you're looking for a side hustle or you're testing the market for a new product or service to your existing business, it doesn't get cheaper. I'm going to use the word. It doesn't get cheaper or easier than spending $100 in 3 days to see if your idea floats. And it's that simple. So I'm a huge fan of this approach. I use it all the time for anything new that we're going to do. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. So Phil's already asking the ever important question. Phil, we are only going to give copies of the slides to people that are here at the end. No, of course you're going to have access to the slides. But stay and interact, because honestly, that's where all the fun comes from, a lot more so than just reading through it. So perfect. See you there saying that. So let's talk about Facebook and why Facebook. Facebook is an unbelievable platform. Facebook has 2.41 billion monthly active users. Like, let that sink in. 2.41 billion. And I always laugh at this. I don't know if you've ever done that analogy of the difference between a millionaire and a billionaire. Have you ever done that one,
no,
Craig?
but it sounds pretty funny.
It is. So I'm just going to do a quick Google search for myself. So here's the thing. And ever since hearing this, I get so frustrated when I listen to people throw them in the same group, like millionaires and billionaires. And it's like, no, there's a huge difference. Bum, 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 bum. I'm just doing a quick search in seconds. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, here it is. It's usually pretty easy to find. So here's the fun thing. Let's talk about millionaires and billionaires. People are like, man, it's 1,000 million makes a billion, right? So not a huge big deal. But the difference is insane. So let's put it in context. A million seconds, right? We're all going to consume seconds. A million seconds is 11.5 days. So you're with me so far, right? Million seconds, 11.5 days, just shy of 2 weeks. That's not that big. So okay, I could do that. I could take a million seconds, and suddenly I've now spent a million seconds in 11.5 days, right? A billion seconds is 31 and a half years. Like, It's just an astronomical difference. So when we talk about, some of these large websites that are getting a few million clicks per month, that's awesome. That's fantastic. But when you put out a number like 2.4 billion monthly active users, it's just staggering. It's insane to think about how many people are on Facebook. And if you look at more of these stats and the breakdown, this is all going to impact what we're talking about, but there's a full breakdown. You've got ages here, like, the 84% are your 25 to 29-year-olds. That's a sweet spot for a lot of businesses. On average, a user clicks 11 ads per month. And out of those 11 ads, any posts is 3.6%. Now, I don't know about you, but if you look at the stats on some of the old pay-per-click models and even before digital, mailers and door hangers and all that kind of stuff, 3.6% is a pretty decent return for some of these types of, just set it and forget it type of things. We're not talking about your automated, customized, type of stuff. We're talking just, here it is, ta-da, who wants it? 3.6% is pretty high. Peter, I see your comment. You're still working on your first billion. I hear you, buddy. So am I. But good news is that I'm kind of in between those two. So I've spent my 11 and a half days. Hopefully I'm not going to have to spend another 32 years to get there, right? But this is the other half of why I like Facebook. So Facebook, and if you know me, I love quoting sources. So this is an article from connect.io. They have tons of info on different types of things. Per 1,000 people, it costs $0.25 on Facebook ads. $0.25. Like that. Just again, to give you a comparison, how many people, read newspapers still, especially during COVID and anything, I get it. So 1,000 people, if you want to put your print ad out there, for 1,000 people to read your ad, to see your new idea, to test whether it's something you want to do, that's $32. Or you can go all the way down to the other end and go, okay, Facebook, here's my $0.25. Get me 1,000 people to look at my ad. That's awesome, right? Yeah, there's more stats up above it. 1.66 billion logins each and every day. 71% of all adults in North America use Facebook. I mean, wow. And I don't know if I talk about it later, so I'll talk about it now. Here's the thing. I probably do talk about it, but I'm going to answer the question, why Facebook right away? I mean, we talk about privacy issues with Facebook and can you trust them with your data and this and that. But Facebook really is no longer a social media platform. They used to be one of the giant social media platforms. And you can see the ones I even chose to list here. You've got LinkedIn, Facebook, and that was really it. I mean, we had the Instagrams and then Facebook bought Instagram. You had Snapchat, sure, it's still there. The third biggest one now is TikTok, but their ad engine's really young. And you know what? That audience isn't necessarily for every business owner. And there's so many different social platforms now. And what Facebook has done is they connected us. And these numbers prove that. They connected us, but now they're going the opposite route. And it's all about that private conversation. They're making more ways for us to interact with each other in a more private manner, which is pretty cool. And the reason I mention this is that the only reason they knew to do that was from their own data. On average, Facebook has 10,000 points of data per user. In fact, I can't remember what the stat is, and I know I have it somewhere, but I think it's like if you like 16 things or something like that on Facebook, chances are Facebook's algorithms now know you better than your spouse, which is hilarious. But I don't know what the actual number is. It'll be later in the slide deck. But think about it. Any of these companies that email you, I mean, we all get those emails. Hi, dear, I would love to help you with your lead generation. Please call company. We can help, right? And you know, there's no promises, there's no guarantees. These things cost a lot of money and you don't know the company or how to trust the company. But 10,000 data, Craig, I don't even know 10,000 things about you, right? Like I don't, and we've been friends for a while. Do you know 10,000 things about me?
I would say not.
Right, but Facebook does. It has got the most glorious database in the world for this type of stuff. And they love being such a huge advertising platform now. They love it because they're generating money from it. Okay. You've probably heard my analogy before. I'll say it again here. When to use what and why am I talking about Facebook? Pretty straightforward. If I want to find people, that's what we're talking about right now. We talked earlier about how someone wants to test a new idea and see if it's a good side hustle, someone else who just wants more leads, whatever your reason is. If you want to find people, potential customers, get new leads, all that kind of stuff, go to Facebook ads. If you want people to find you, you're a local plumber, an electrician, a hobby shop down the street, then you use Google ads, because Google is going to help people find you. And if you're not getting results from Google or from Facebook, then you use LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, as you can see, is 3 times more expensive than Facebook, and their engine isn't as robust as Google. So you're kind of settling for an in-between, but where LinkedIn is really good is being able to target things like job title and such. So if you're looking specifically for hockey players because you've got revolutionary new hockey tape, yeah, Canada, then that's what you would use is LinkedIn, and you can target these specific types of people. Not to say you can't do that in the other ad platforms, it's just a lot more effective in LinkedIn. However, LinkedIn does not have 10,000 data points on its users, okay? Hey, Eli, oh, that's just you, okay. Perfect. So let's talk about this a bit. I'm going to get right into it. So tonight, you guys can do this with me. You can do it on your own. Like I said, you are going to have this, but I want to talk about the 3 parts of an ad, because that's what I'm talking about at the end of the day. How do you spend $100 and buy leads from Facebook's? You're going to run an ad. You're going to run what we're going to call later a cold market ad. Plain and simple. And I'm going to show you how to set it up, and it's going to take you half an hour and you'll be done. And then you come back 3 days later and you'll have all the data you need to decide whether it was a good idea or not. So there's 3 parts. There is your audience. That's what we're focusing on tonight. We are focusing on how do I target the right people, okay? There's creative, and then there's destination. Now, when we really get into it, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't mean this to become an upsell. That's not my style for this. But like I said at the beginning, and for those who are just tuning in now, this is from a course I teach. It's a little 2-hour workshop I do. And at the end of the workshop, of course, you're going to see something later on in the PDF that says, hey, talk with us and get us to do the creative and destination for you. So you're going to see it in the deck. If you want us to do it for you, we can, but that's not what I'm here to do. It's just, I already had the material, made sense. Why reinvent it? Okay. So we are focusing on audience and audience alone tonight. So I want to take a minute, and I'm going to get you guys to write down some stuff, because remember I said you didn't have to know a ton about your ideal client avatar, we call it, or in this case, a traffic avatar. You really don't. You don't have to know male, female, all that kind of stuff. I list it here, but the more you know, the easier this process becomes. So let's just go through this together. I can zoom in a little bit if it's not clear for everyone watching, but let's just go in together, and I'll fill out some examples for myself and show you how I could even do that. So countries, for example, let's say I want to target high-end real estate in Canada. So obviously my country is going to be Canada. That was really easy. I just put Canada, okay? But what cities are the cities where I want to target high-end real estate? So you can't see my screen on what I'm about to do, but all I'm doing is I'm going to Google, and I'm going to type in best luxury real estate cities in Canada, right? Yeah, here we go. Canadian cities with the highest concentration of luxury condos, 4 Canadian cities with the best luxury real estate market. Those are the top 2 answers. So when I open those up and take a look, it gives me some cities, gives me some stats, blah, blah, blah. There we go. So number 1, Vancouver, British Columbia. Number 2, Richmond Hill. Number 3, Burnaby. Let's see what the second one says. Pretty much the same thing. Vancouver, Richmond Hill, Calgary, then Burnaby. So obviously now I've got something to back up that the data is accurate, because it's pretty much the same between the 2. One is 3rd, one is 4. So I'm just going to go with that. So the cities I'm going to put in is Vancouver, British Columbia, Richmond Hill, Ontario, and Burnaby, British Columbia. Well, that was easy, right? Oh, but wait, what about neighborhoods? Okay, let's get a little more specific. Now, I still have no idea who these people are. All I know is that in my example, I want to test this luxury real estate idea. Don't know what the idea is yet. I haven't told anyone, but it's a luxury real estate idea. You know what? I'll tell you what it is. I want to do drone footage of luxury real estate. Ooh, that's the idea. Okay, so Canada, I've listed 3 cities. So now how do I find out the neighborhoods? So back to Google, I'll just do the first one of Vancouver. And I'm gonna say richest Vancouver neighborhood. That's all I'm gonna say, right? Why not go where the money is? Cool, the 9 highest valued streets in Vancouver. Thank you, Google. All right, so Point Grey Road, Kitsilano, Belmont Avenue, Point Grey, Marine Drive, Point Grey, the Crescent in Shaughnessy, Osler Street in Shaughnessy, Radcliffe Avenue, West Vancouver. Great. So I see that the easiest ones for me to remember are going to be Point Grey, Shaughnessy, and West Vancouver. So for neighborhoods, that's what I put. Point Grey, Shaughnessy, West Vancouver. And so far this has taken us what, Craig? 5-6 minutes just to get through this?
Yep.
Awesome. So now I know the country. I now know the rich cities for luxury real estate. I know what neighborhoods I want. And oh, look, postal codes. So guess what I'm going to do? Any ideas?
Look up postal codes for the cities you named above.
Right. So I'm going to look up in Google again. I'm going to go to Point Grey postal codes. Right. And right there at the top of my page, you can't see it, but right there I see it's V6R and V6T. Amazing. So I'm going to write down V6R. And then after Point Grey, we had Shaughnessy. Not that I know how to spell that properly, but that's okay. And Shaughnessy is T0K. That was pretty easy. And then we've got West Vancouver postal codes. So I've got V7P and V7R and V7S. Wow. So West Vancouver is pretty big. So just like that, I have gone from, well, I don't really have an idea on them yet on who they are. And yet, bam, I've just figured out exactly where they are for this type of idea that I'm going to test. Now, here's the fun part. I'm not even going to specify male, female, or both. Could care less about their age range. Could care less about their occupation, about their title, about their main interests right now. Because this is the stuff that I want Facebook to tell me. I don't want to have to guess, should I be marketing towards women? And you should always be marketing towards women, just so you know. But do I include men? And when I ask people, well, what age range do you normally put in here? And I'll have people say, well, you know, I do skincare, so I can help women between the ages of 20 and 70. What? Let me ask you something. Do you know any women that are 20 years old, Craig?
Yes.
Do they have the same skincare issues as a 70-year-old woman?
Nope.
Like even remotely close?
Nope.
Then why are you using that as an age range, right? So I always tell people, when you do end up specifying an age range with the data that Facebook gives you, make it a 4-year age range, right? Because I could say in that same example, 20 to 24-year-old, probably similar skin issues, right? 70 to 74-year-old, probably similar skin issues, right? So you can have more than one traffic avatar, but we're going to let Facebook define them for us, okay?
Yeah, our community has a wide age group, 25 to about 55, give or take.
Right. However, you wouldn't target them all as one avatar, right? You have to break it down to appeal to people based on, so for example, with your group, with Toronto Starts, you might have some people that own businesses, some people that are entrepreneurs. I see your question, Ellie. I'll answer it in a second. You might have some people that have employees, some people that are solopreneurs, some people that are less than 50,000, some people that are over 5 million. So all of these things make for different ways to always niche down and specifically target the needs of those people, which we're going to talk about after Ellie's question. What if the product suits all ages? Here's the fun thing, and I'm going to be blunt, and hopefully you'll stay on the line. Every entrepreneur thinks that. Every entrepreneur thinks that they can help all people, that they can serve all people, even if your product is suitable for all ages. And I'll give you a perfect example. Craig knows I've taken up the hobby of lightsaber smithing. I now craft my own high-end, not fully functional, but functional lightsaber replicas, right? Now, what 5-year-old doesn't want a lightsaber? What 50-year-old doesn't want a lightsaber? So would my age range be 5 to 50? Well, no, because the average price is $1,500. I don't know a lot of 5-year-olds that spend $1,500. Okay, so target the 5-year-old's parents. How many 20 to 22-year-olds are going to spend $1,500 on a lightsaber for their 5-year-old, right? So again, it's always narrowing down, which we're going to do in Facebook, who is your exact best audience. And that's not to say, like, let me be very clear again, and I'm glad you agree, Ellie. Let me be very, very clear. If I am targeting a 50, like, so let's look at this in real estate. If I wanted to target, first of all, we all know it's primarily women doing luxury real estate. They're amazing at it. And if I want to target, I already know the answer to this one because I've actually done this with a client of mine. The answer is 36 to 40. That's the ideal target. So I'm going to look at what are all the challenges, what are all the things that 36 to 40-year-old women are going through. Now, a lot of them are either divorced or still single. Sometimes they have kids, sometimes they don't. A lot of the things they go through is how are they going to have money to support the children if they have them? Are they going to be able to find a partner or find a partner again while they're still viable? Like, these are kind of weird things to think about, but this is the kind of stuff that demographic 36 to 40 wants. Now, does that mean if my ad attracts a real estate agent, a female luxury real estate agent, and she's 42 years old, that's not the demographic. I said 36 to 40. She's 42 years old, but ticks every other box. I'm going to be sorry, you're too old for my product. Of course not. But when you focus on the ideal, you're going to drag along so many other good people with them. Does that make sense, Ellie?
Makes sense to me.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know, Ellie. Okay, so what I do want you to do is that exercise we just talked about. What keeps them awake at night? Now, luxury real estate is high risk, high reward, and it's not as small a market as it used to be, but again, the top like 2% of the agents are making 98% of the money because they know their game. And we're talking, you know, $10 million to $15 million estates. Imagine your commission on that. Right? So what keeps them awake at night is how to close that deal. How am I going to provide for my kids? How am I going to, prove this? This was a good one that came out because I actually interviewed people for this because I'm a huge fan of that. Make my guesses, make my hypotheses, and then go ask people that actually do it. And one of the ones that I didn't get, and it didn't surprise me, but I hadn't thought of it, is how can I prove myself as good as a man? That still exists, guys. And that sucks, but that was one of the things. How can I prove I'm as good as the men on the team? Because the men are always the one getting first dibs on the better properties, still walking around in the office. There's still a lot of misogyny and jokes at a woman's expense. So how can I earn their respect? How can I be their equal? Okay. What's their single biggest challenge you can solve? Well, in this case, with drone photography and videography, the challenge to solve was how to show the difference between a house and a home. Interesting. How do you tell the story of that rich, beautiful area like Point Grey, for example? How do you show that it's 2 minutes away from a school? Do you just say close to schools? No, of course not. When you're dealing with luxury, there's a lot more to it. So how about being able to go out the front door of this estate from a bird's eye view, go up into the sky, and just go down the street 2 minutes and land in the school? Wow, now you can really see that you're close to the school, right? That kind of thing. Or if you want to show views and sunsets, why not just go up above the house or from the second floor of the house, just fly up and capture a beautiful sunset. Like, there's so much you can do that, their biggest challenge to solve is how do you really tell the story of the home? What do they secretly, privately desire most? Kind of touched on that. I mean, it keeps them awake at night, but it could be a separate point. The biggest one was, for this one again, was to stop crying tears of inequality. That's it. Like, a lot of women just wish more than anything that they didn't feel like women. And that's a horrible thing to say because women are beautiful and wonderful creatures and should always feel like women. But they shouldn't be afraid to feel like women. They shouldn't feel that it's less to feel a woman. So what do they secretly, privately desire most? To be able to one up the guys, right? That's it. How does your ideal prospect finish this sentence? If I could just ... Okay. So now we actually understand who they are a bit, and that's okay for later. But again, we don't need that right now for this ad. I'm just showing you some things to consider. All we need right now out of this page is question 1. Ta-da! Question 1. That's it. That's all we need to know. This stuff is when you get into the creative and everything, because like I said, we're going to run an ad for $100, and there was the 3 parts. Does anyone remember the 3 parts? Craig, do you remember the 3 parts?
Audience,
Audience, which is what we're talking about tonight.
creative,
Creative.
and destination.
And destination, right? So your creative and your destination is what you need this information for. It's what you need all this data from Facebook for, because once you know who you're talking to, then you can put your creative to them specifically, right? Specifically. And the destination, whether it's your landing page, whether it's a sign up form right within Facebook, whatever it is, the language and the words you use and the imagery you use has to be very specific to those people. But for what we're doing, really, you only need audience and some type of idea. So again, that's why we're focusing on audience tonight. Okay. So 300 things. I knew it was in here somewhere, Craig. Okay. So here it is. If you've liked over 300 things, then Facebook has a better way of predicting what you'll do than your spouse. Have you liked over 300 things, Craig?
Probably.
I think yesterday I liked over 300 things, so pretty good chance that you have.
I'm a very low Facebook user.
Fair enough. Great, but Facebook's been around, I think, what, just over 10 years now?
Yeah, so I think I have, but
yeah. I believe you can actually do a report and find out how many things you've liked as part of the compliance for privacy requirements in Canada.
Nice.
How fascinating is that? Yeah, the PIPEDA stuff. Anywho, that's off topic. So we're going to talk about Facebook ad targeting. Now, 2 types. There's cold markets, you have no relationship, and there's custom audiences where you have a relationship. And what I'm going to do today is we're going to talk about the cold market. You have no idea who these people are, and I want you to find these people, because once you throw that net out there, and this is what we were talking about, Eli, once we throw that net out there, like in your case, type in your product for me and we'll use it as the example for the rest of this, okay? We'll get away from drones and get into whatever your product is. But what you're going to do is exactly what you thought, because I am a huge believer in leveraging people's existing behaviors instead of changing their habits. Right? To convince people to do something new when their behavior has been the same thing for years and decades, it's very frustrating, and I don't really believe in doing things that frustrate me anymore. What's the point? So instead, what if I could leverage someone like Eli who says, yeah, but my product's suitable for everyone. Cool, let's throw it out to everyone for $100 and 3 days. Limit the insanity. Put some boundaries around it. Say, okay, our product that's suitable for all ages, here it is, world. And then we're going to measure who responds. That's our cold market buying lead strategy from Facebook. Once we have that data, now we can turn that into custom audiences and really drill down as far as we want through those 10,000 data points to market to those people quite successfully. That's not part of tonight. Tonight is finding out who those people are. Okay, so what I want you to pay attention to as we do this is you're going to see this box right here. Have you ever run Facebook ads, Craig?
Yes.
So you're familiar with reach, right? The term
Yep.
reach, right? So Facebook loves you so much and wants you to succeed on their platform so much that they do many things for you. In fact, one thing they do is they show you your potential reach, and they even indicate it. And you want to be in the green area. If it's too not specific enough, then it's too broad and you'll have too many unqualified leads. And if it's too specific, you won't have enough qualified leads. And Facebook's got you. They know that. And in fact, when you hit this sweet spot, this kind of area, and people start engaging with your ad, if your ad starts to gain traction and critical mass, then they will actually start to show it to more people because it's clearly an ad that's working. And who doesn't want that? Right? And it makes them again look good because they're showing relevant content that people are wanting. Okay, so let's go over really quick the anatomy of Facebook Ads Manager, because it throws a lot of people off when they first open it up. When you go in there and you log in for the first time, you're going to see just a bunch of tabs and a bunch of data, and it's not all user intuitive and friendly. They're going to have this wizard ignore that. They're going to say, oh, let's walk you through. No, I don't want your wizard. I want to have control over my ad. So close the wizard, and you're going to see Facebook campaigns, and your campaigns are a filing cabinet, right? This is your objective for the ad. So for this one, if you want to do it in real time, you can. The objective for the ad, I would basically create, what I'm going to create here is I'm going to create a lead type of ad. There's different types of ads. I'll get into a couple of them. I'm going to create a lead type of ad, and with my lead type of ad, I'm going to name it my objective. And my objective is Ideal Client Avatar, ICA. That's all I'm going to call it, Ideal Client Avatar. You could call it Toronto Starts ICA Test, or $100 test, or Marcus Says Do This. You could call it whatever you want, but it's the objective of your campaign. If we continue with that analogy, your ad set it's a folder within the filing cabinet. So you have this objective of, here's my objective, get more leads, right? The audience is your ad set. So you could have multiple audiences. We're only going to do one for this lesson, but you could have multiple audiences. So to your point again, Eli, you could have, or Ellie, you could have, you know, kids age 6 to 10, girls age 6 to 10, boys aged 11 to 15, and then parents aged, you know, 30 to 34. You could have 3 different ad sets within the same campaign, if that makes sense. And then finally, the ad is your actual content. It's what is the end user going to see? What is the ad you're going to show them? Because clearly, the ads you're going to show the 6 to 10-year-old boy are going to be very different than the 11 to 15-year-old girl. I think I got that backwards. Very different than the parents. And you could have 6 different ads you're running for each of those ad sets, right? So it's just like a big tree structure. And I always find folders seem to work best. Okay, cool. Now, one thing I will warn you about. Remember I said you could have 6 ads running at once? Cool. We do that. You could run 2 ads, not with this tonight. Just keep it simple. I don't want to overwhelm. When you run 2 ads, do not use the split testing feature in Facebook. It's garbage. Sorry, Facebook, I love you. You make me a lot of money. It is garbage, okay? Instead, run 2 separate ads and only change one thing between them. Maybe you have an image of a woman in one, and you have an image of a man in another. See how they do. Or maybe it's the same picture of a woman, but the background's blue in one and red in the other. Or maybe you change the headline in one, but everything else is the same. Like, don't make 2 completely different ads, because you'll have no way of knowing which one's performing better. So when you do your split testing, only change one thing at a time. And what I do, if I'm going to use my hands, is I'm going to be like, okay, here's the 2 or 4 or whatever, but here's the 2 ads. I come back in a day or 2. Oh, this one's falling behind. Drop that. See why we liked it. Come up with a different change. Oh, this one's falling behind. Drop that. Come up with another change. Oh, both of these are performing. Yay, money. Right.
When you're doing those kind of split testing, are you optimizing for clicks, conversions, impressions?
Right. Well, so those are different types of campaigns again, like, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but not a whole lot, because what you're getting into, if I scroll back up here, is you're actually getting into relationship building audiences. And I did give a little hint here for people. These are the only 3 types of ads we ever use at How To Project, which is conversions, engagements, and leads. The rest, there's a lot of confusing ones out there. We do have one client that does really well with messenger ads, but that's because they build messenger bots. Makes sense. But generally speaking, these are the 3 things we focus. And the reason why, and why this first one we're going to do is leads, is because you can keep the leads experience 100% in Facebook. Back to creative, back to destination. When you do a leads type of ad, you have very limited potential for what your creative can be, and you don't have to have some external service like a WordPress site or you know, Fast Pages or Lead Pages or whatever. It all happens right in Facebook, and Facebook loves that. So that's where you start. After that, when you want to nurture people, is that's when you get the engagement ads. You want them to do the clicks, you want them to do everything, and then finally, of course, the conversions. What the big difference between engagement and conversions is, conversions ads, Craig, they go specifically to people who Facebook knows are likely to actually go all the way through the process. And they've tracked that with Facebook pixels on destination pages. So they know that, oh, if you want conversion, we're going to show it to people more likely to actually purchase your product or service. But for today, we're only going to be talking about lead ads a bit, okay? To answer your question about do we optimize for cost per click, the answer is yes and no. And I don't think I talk about that today. Let me just scan ahead
It
of
was
it.
specifically related to A/B testing because sometimes you're trying to test whether an ad works, or sometimes
Yeah.
you're trying to actually get results.
Right. So the reason we don't, the reason we're not going to talk about that is because it can be misleading. So for
Okay.
example, I could have a cheaper cost per click and get to a lot more people clicking on my ad, and even say booking an appointment to meet me about drone photography. But then I have a high cancellation rate because it's not the right people. Whereas I could then, spend a little more money, target the right people, and have a much better show up rate, and even charge them for the appointment up front. That way, if they don't show up, I'm still making money. But generally, if you charge people for say the privilege of booking with you as opposed to a free ebook or something, then they're going to take it more seriously. So the people that do click through, you have a higher chance of converting. And when you factor all of that in beyond just the cost of the ad, it's actually cheaper to spend the more money on the ad than to not spend more money on the ad, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Okay. But again, those are more complex strategies that we're not really going to cover a whole lot right now. Okay. How long do I have, by the way, just so I know?
Another 15, 20 minutes, depending on
What? I've
how
got like
long you want to
6
stick
hours.
around.
Okay. No, I'm kidding. Okay, cool. So if you remember, we were going to target a cold audience, and we had our one country, 3 cities, and we had it was where were we going first? Vancouver, and we had our 3 neighborhoods, and we even looked up postal codes for those neighborhoods. So this is how easy it gets now. When you go into the Facebook ad engine, the first thing it's going to ask you to do for cold ads is you're going to say everyone in this location. And you can type in locations either by neighborhood, and it'll show you on that. So right now we're just looking at Victoria, Australia. So it's a round circle. But if you were to type in a neighborhood, it will actually outline that neighborhood on the map for you to show you specifically where you're targeting. You can do it by neighborhood, or you can even do it by postal code. And again, it'll trace out where it is. And you can do multiple ones. So if you want to do one ad for your West Vancouver and hit all 3 neighborhoods at once, and like 8 postal codes at once, you can just list it all here, and it'll show you the different areas of the city that you're targeting. It's fantastic. Okay. So that's your location. Use the default radius if you want. If you're a physical location, go a little smaller. If you're not a physical location, or you don't live in that city, like we're doing Vancouver and I'm based in Toronto with you. So if you're doing that, then just play with it based on this number, right? If you increase it too much and it becomes too broad, reduce it. If you reduce it too much and it becomes too narrow, increase it. So that's the easiest way to change that number, is by changing the radius that you're going to play with on the location. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is you're going to put the default age range, which is 18 to 65. This example doesn't show that, but the default is 18 to 65. So choose that, and choose gender, all. And that's it. That's the end of the lesson right here. Because what's going to happen now is you'll have to go through the creative. So this is why I said we don't cover all of that, but all you need to do, right? So I'm going to go back to the example of the drones. Come up with your ad. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can just be a little one pager, like a little single image. You don't need the videos. You don't need to have carousels or anything fancy, but you have to have something that catches their attention, right? So for the drones, it could be like a whole new way of selling luxury real estate. That's it. A whole new way of selling luxury real estate. And all it is it's a beautiful picture from way up high above the clouds. Wow, that's awesome. And if it attracts the right people, because you didn't specify anyone, but in your creative, you said a whole new way to sell luxury real estate. So right off the bat, who do you think is going to click your ads? People that sell luxury real estate. Now, in your mind, when you did your homework and you did your Google research and everything else to test this idea of drone photography for luxury real estate, you figured it would be 36 to 40-year-old women. Cool. But you don't know until you test everything. So what you're doing is you're spending $100 to run this ad, and you get to set lifetime budgets. So don't worry, it won't go over. You can say $100 lifetime budget, 3 days. So you'll pick today or tomorrow, and then 3 days from now, you'll say stop. Great question. I see that, Afrin. At the end of the 3 days, you're going to come back, and I'm going to show you how to read the data right before we go. I'm going to show you how to read the data, and you'll now know who your target audience is. And then I meant to take out all of this warm audience stuff, but guess what? You get to have it anyway. So you'll get to really target them because now they know you and they're interested in you. Okay, so I see fair amount. Okay, so let's answer Andrew's first, because Andrew, yours is quick and easy. So for this first one, what we're doing is we are going to only test for 3 days. That's it. 3 days, $100 to get an idea of who our client avatar is. Plain and simple. Once you start doing the split testing, what we do is we usually will run it for a week or 2 weeks. Like, it really depends on your budget. But we're monitoring it every single day to see which one's working better, which one's not, and making little adjustments as we go, right? Swapping things out where we need to, adjusting where we need to. But I would never let anything just run months on end. In fact, there's a really cool thing. If I have time, I'll show you. But basically in Facebook, you can go to any Facebook page. And on a Facebook page, if you scroll down their page, you'll see something called page transparency. And again, because of privacy, by law, there's certain things they have to show you. So if you click on page transparency, it'll show you they're currently running ads. Okay, who cares? I care, because when you look at their currently running ads, by the way, if you go to our page, we're not running any ads right now on purpose. But if you do currently running ads, you'll be able to see the date the ads started. So what are we in now? October. So if I go to a page like Toronto Starts, and I know how popular the the virtual meet and greet is. I'm just making something up. The virtual meet and greet, super popular, sells out every month. And so they have an ad, and that ad's been running since April. Holy smokes. Okay, I'm going to look at this ad, and I'm going to learn as much as I can from this ad, because clearly it's working if they've run it since April. Or Craig just forgot to turn it off since April. One or the other, right? But don't let it run for months at a time unless it's really, really working. Afrin, what's a realistic number for audience? When you are doing this type of ad, a realistic number, and it depends for you. I mean, I've seen anywhere from 20,000 to 200,000, depending on the population areas of what you target. So if you're only going to target one specific neighborhood, you're not going to get 200,000 people. We have a plumber actually here in North Whitby, a little town called Brooklyn, and they have a single postal code, and that single postal code has 17,000 Facebook users. So we decided for him, he's going to specifically target Brooklyn. Do you think a local plumber could do with 17,000 potential new customers within a 20-minute drive? Of course, right? So you have to figure out what number is right for you, but that's a great question, okay? Once you've run your ad, I'm going to skip the warm audience stuff. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Okay. So once you've done your ad, you're going to get this report, and I can't really zoom in on it too much. But what this report is, so see how we've got our campaigns, our ad sets, and our ads like we talked about before. What you're going to do is you're going to look at each of these is a separate campaign. And all you're going to do is you're going to click on the breakdown drop-down button, okay? Breakdown, because you want to see how the ad went. Now, none of these ads are active right now. We turn them off because they're done, right? 3 days, it's done. It'll turn itself off, but it's done. So when you go to breakdown, what you can do is you can say, show me the age. So you go to by delivery age. Let's say you get 1,000 leads. How do you narrow down to the good ones? Well, that's the funny thing. How do you know the 1,000 leads aren't the good ones, right? Because of your, so that's the warm section. The cold section, again, let's look at my example. Great question, Peter. So I'm running a drone photography ad to potentially 200,000 people, let's say, right? It's West Vancouver, pretty busy. So 200,000 people, and I'm putting very specific marketing headlines. I'm using all that stuff Craig teaches, really good stuff, and saying, you know, a new perspective on a new way to sell luxury real estate, whatever it was, right? Sky's the limit, whatever you want to say. And Facebook's going to tell me that it's going to reach roughly 200,000 people. Out of those 200,000 people, you're asking me, out of the 1,000 people that actually clicked through my ad and filled out my form or whatever it is I did, how do I narrow down the good ones? Well, guess what? Those are the good ones. That's why we're doing this. We want to see who is responding. Now, let's say you're still not convinced, then what you can do is once you take this data, once you find out the ages, and for example, when you get to the age, did I show any examples of that? No, okay. So when you get to the ages on the breakdown, you might see that your primary age category was 25 to 29, 52% of your people were that age category, followed strongly by 30% of your people were 34 to 38. So guess what? Now, you could isolate who those people are, because Facebook will let you collect their email addresses and names from your system. Or if you did it through a third-party system and you're a little more technical, you'll know how to do that in your CRM. And you can specifically now create a custom audience based on those people. So let's say out of those 1,000, I said 50%. So 500 of those people were our ideal target of 36 to 40. Right? And let's say they were women, because you'll see here I can also look at gender. So let's say 100% of them were women in this case. Then I can now import that data back into Facebook and say, create me a custom audience based on these types of people. And why that's so powerful for you, Peter, and this is a bit of a bonus, is because, like I said at the beginning, Facebook has 10,000 data points. So when you just give it those names and those email addresses, it will look at everybody else in the areas you specify, you know, Canada, for example, and it'll say, okay, I have 10,000 data points I can compare per person. Let's see how much of a match we can get. And you get to specify that. You can say it has to be a 99% match, a 95% match, an 80% match. You get to specify, and you can do multiples at the same time. And Facebook will spit back and say, hey, listen, I have a custom audience for you. They won't tell you who those people are. That's illegal. But here's your list of, you know, 80,000 more people that we could reach that fit your criteria 99%. Do you want to save this file on Facebook and use it for a future ad? You say, yes, yes, I do, right? So the idea is first to see who responds to our idea, then follow up with people like that. Does that make sense, Peter? Does that make sense to you, Craig?
Absolutely makes sense to me.
Okay, good. So yeah, so you can break it down by the things we wanted to know. So if you remember from the beginning at our traffic, I know, Peter, it is a lot of information. That's partly why Craig records these, and it's also why I always make myself available for questions if you want to reach out. Your brain hurts. Imagine me trying to figure this out the first time. Okay. So at the beginning, the things we did not fill out in our traffic avatar was age. Why? Because Facebook's now going to tell us the age. We did not fill out gender because Facebook's going to tell us the gender that liked our ad, right? We can even go to impression device. What does that mean? Well, did more people look at it on mobile, or did more people look at it on desktop? That's important to know, because there's different things you can do, right? Depending on what it is. You can even find out if it's Android or Apple. And one of the funniest ads we ever ran was for Android users. We targeted Android users on mobile and said, aren't you sick and tired of Apple people thinking they're better, right? And we got huge response to that. And at the same time, of course, we targeted Apple users and we said, aren't you tired of Android users thinking they're better, right? So you get to change your language depending on who your audience is. And it was a lot of fun, and it was a really good campaign. Yeah, thanks, Ellie. You'll also be able to find out placement. Now, placement's important because placement is, did they click on it in their news feed? Did they click on it on a sidebar? Like, where was it? That kind of thing. And it just goes on and on and on, and there's more and more data here. You can even find out, actually, when you first run it on Facebook, did they view your ad on Instagram, right? Because when you run a Facebook ad, unless you specify otherwise, which you can, You're also running an Instagram ad because Facebook owns Instagram. And in fact, they own Oculus, the VR company, and they're working on an ad engine for Oculus. So you'll actually be able to get people right in their VR environment with your ads from Facebook and Instagram. So it'll even show you where they saw your ad. And that can be informative to you, because let's say you primarily go on Facebook. Can you target businesses in the same manner? No, and I'll tell you why after this thought. It's important to know where they're viewing it, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, simply because VR ad for plumbing. Yeah, mine too, Peter. Because let's say you're strong on Facebook, you're always updating, you're in groups, you're always posting stuff on your Facebook page, but you just really don't like to take pictures and share them on Instagram. Well, if 80% of your potential customers responded to you on Instagram, you need to be on Instagram, right? So it's a great way of qualifying whether your different social channels are working for you. To answer you, Peter, and then I'll see you, Susan. Yep. The reason, Peter, we don't target businesses is because Facebook is about people. You could target business locations, as you can see here, but Facebook is about people. And there's this misnomer between B2B and B2C, business to business and business to consumer. And a lot of people are like, well, I'm just going to use LinkedIn to target businesses because I'm a business. Yeah, but guess what? Their CEOs have daughters, their CEOs have families, their CEOs and whoever you want to talk to in the company are on Facebook. 1.66 billion logins per day. Hello. So you want to target the type of person you're looking for and how you can help them on Facebook. Now, like I said at the beginning, if you run these Facebook ads, let's say in the worst case scenario, couldn't figure it out because the brain hurts, or you're like, nah, all right, I'll give it a try. 3 days and $100, and you get nothing. And you're like, yeah, Marcus is full of crap or whatever. Cool. You're out $100. Go off to LinkedIn and spend more money there. But there you can target specific businesses, right? Specific industries, even specific job titles a lot more effectively than you can at Facebook. The reason I always target Facebook is because at the end of the day, all businesses are P2P, people to people. Businesses don't buy from businesses, people buy from people. So that's why I'm teaching this approach. You're thinking about using this for job hunting instead of job sites. Yeah, that is, I wouldn't say that's an original idea. I've done it myself to gain attraction from some clients. It can work. It also doesn't always work, but yeah, definitely you can be very creative with how you leverage this incredibly massive database. Now, Susan, if I'm only targeting to women, would I still not include gender originally? Absolutely leave it open, because who more than anyone loves to buy gifts for women? Men, right? So depending on what you're selling, you might find you get a lot of husbands or boyfriends or sons that are interested in your product. And if you don't include them off the bat as part of this exercise, you could be missing out on a whole other audience you're not even aware of. That's the point. They are widows. Okay, perfect. So you're targeting widows. Is it a service or a product, Susan? And do these widows have brothers, cousins, nephews, children? Service for now. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to keep the same answer. I mean, it's horrible that anyone's a widow. I'm glad that you're servicing these type of people. Thank you for doing that. But at the same time, for a $100 3-day test, why not? Why not open it up and see if men respond? If they do, think of the money you could make. Think of the people you could help. If they don't, you're at $100, right? That's what I love about this. What company do you know that you can buy leads from for $100 and a 3-day commitment? Like, there's none out there. When I first started the company, and I know I'm a bit over, when I first started my company, my first list, I spent $2,000 on it. It was a 3-month commitment. You want to know how many sales I got out of that? Big fat 0, because it was just a list of useless. I mean, the bounce rates and the spam warnings was insane. And I learned my lesson early on. And then when I started doing this with Facebook and saw that it can work, it does not always work, because sometimes I screw up and I have to own that as a business owner. Sometimes my creative isn't that good, or the destination fails. I mean, and that's the worst thing. And I'm not going to get into Facebook pixels and everything today, but imagine you go through all this work of getting someone to click your ad, and their ad takes them to a landing page, and that landing page is broken, or that landing page is garbage, or that landing page is just confusing. You went through all that effort and Facebook did what it does for you, and you got them and you sent them and then you lost them. Well, how can you blame Facebook for that? You can't, right? So it's all three parts are important, but the audience is what we're focusing on today. Afrin, why some people who are not my audience are liking my posts, even though I'm targeting specific people by narrowing it down? Well, that's the beauty of Facebook too. It is still slightly social. So let's say you and I are friends and I like your ad or I comment on your post or something. As a friend of a friend, I can see that they commented on your post. So now if I want to, I can look at your post and, oh, that is pretty cool. I'm going to like it as well or comment it on as well. That's how you get reach. It's actually a good thing. Okay, let me wrap this up. A lot more data for you about 91% of all content is on mobile. 71% of women are, you're welcome, are the decision makers in marketing. So really, let's sum it up. The strategy: create a Facebook ad, $100 spend, 3 days. If you want, spend another $100 or split it into two, 50 and 50. That's fine too. Run a split test if you want. That's optional. If that's confusing and you don't want to do it, don't. Create a reminder for yourself to review your ad set results 3 days from now. It can be your alarm clock, a calendar, whatever. And then create a document and record the ad set stuff you see. Because now, once you have that data, you can use that data for any type of marketing at all. Like, it doesn't just have to be for Facebook. It can be for anything you want to do. You want to make a brochure. Guess what? Now you know what your creative should look like. Okay. And then optional, we didn't talk about it, but it's in there for those that are very studious and have kept up with everything I've been saying. That's when you run your retargeting campaign, because now you're no longer a stranger. Now you actually have these people and you can create that warm audience experience we talked about. You can create custom audiences and reach more people of the type that are going to respond to you. But this was the basics today. The basics was 3 days, $100. There is the sell. I'm not, whatever, just if you want help, ask. You can ask Craig. I don't know if they offer this at Toronto Starts and maybe your mentoring programs, Craig. If they don't and enough people ask you for this, I'm happy to come in and do one for you in a more workshop type of way, like online, of course, right now. Because I'm not in this for me. I'm in this to support Toronto Starts, guys. So don't reach out to me on how-to project on this one. Reach out to Craig and let him know you would like an actual step-by-step workshop type of thing where a group of us get together and actually do it instead of just teaching it, okay? And then finally, there's a link here. During COVID, and it is still active, Facebook now will provide businesses grants. So how much better to get a grant credit, and you'll never guess how much that grant credit typically is. That's right, $100. So you could actually do this for free on Facebook's dime. You can test their own engine. What's the difference between reach and impression? Perfect. So reach is people that see your ad, impression is people that click on your ad. Pretty straightforward there for you, right? Because a ton of people see it and do nothing with it. So, oh, actually, no, that's wrong. That's click. Reach, sorry, my problem. Reach is how many people have seen your ad organically or paid, right? So back to Afrin was saying it. So let's say you run your ad and someone likes your ad or shares your ad. So that's all part of reach, whereas impression is each time Facebook says, I'm going to display your ad. So typically your reach will be a lot higher than your impression. If your impression number is the same as your reach number, that's another good data indicator that your ad's really not doing so well because no one's sharing it. No one is showing it on their timelines, that kind of thing. So sorry about that. What have we got? People who are likely approaching you harassment, or let's say for a small village in nowhere, that definitely can't afford based on their currency.
I didn't quite make heads or tails out of this one.
Yeah. Again, the only thing I can say, thank you for helping. I'm not sure I understand it either, but basically the approach is always, always, always just focus after you've done this exercise, focus on the ideal client. And if you drag others along, that's perfect because you can either choose to serve them or it's important to understand, guys, you can choose not to serve them. Because as I said at the beginning, you don't have to help everybody. That's not your job. That's Superman's job, right? Your job is to find your clients and service those people. So if you get people that are in the middle of nowhere, small village, if they're approaching you harassment base, Right. And some people will click on your
Oh,
ad
I
that are
think they're
not your target
saying
at all.
I think they're saying is bad people are clicking on the ad to make them pay for it.
Right. And that's okay. That happens because Facebook, by the way, is not necessarily pay per click, right? That's where I actually don't like Google ads. They still use a pay per click model, but we're not talking about Google tonight. At the end of the day, here's the thing. If you're spending $100, that could be 10,000 clicks, that could be 100,000 clicks. It's whatever the behind the scenes bid strategy is for Facebook, because it's not based on that. And in fact, the more people, good or bad, that are clicking on your ad, Facebook's going to boost it for free to show even more people. Now that could be bad if it's the wrong people seeing it, but they're going to boost it for free so more people can see it, but you're not going to have to pay anything extra. So at the end of the day, Facebook is still your best bang for the buck. And if they are people, here's the fun thing. I didn't show you this, but it's right there. So let's say you run an ad and you get this group of people that just keep spamming you from the middle of nowhere, right? They're nowhere near West Vancouver. They're from Salt Spring Island. Okay, Salt Spring Island, for those of you that don't know, is a beautiful little island off of the coast of BC. So there's like 10 people living there, and all they do all day, every day is just spam your ad because you pissed off one of them. So what you can do here is, see how this says include? Well, guess what? If you use the drop down, there's also an exclude. So if you say exclude and then you add the location, Salt Spring Island, Facebook will specifically make sure that your ad is never shown in Salt Spring Island. Ta-da!
Great, thanks for that. And I want people to think outside the box. Like you showed, pick a target, where we targeted the most expensive homes in Canada. That, and now if we look back to some of our early on, I remember, computer nerd saying he's looking for a side hustle. Well, you just targeted the most expensive homes. What about offering them Wi-Fi mapping service, secure internet, whatever? Now you can throw at whatever service ads and see what bites at a few bucks, and you're targeting people who can afford it. Like I just think outside the box on all of these things.
Yeah, essentially the way I look at this is now, especially in this day of COVID, this is the best worldwide market research tool available. It really is. Like, I don't have to leave my home. We had some people say they love working at home. I love working at home too. And it's great because I can target halfway around the world, because I can't always trust Google, can't always trust the internet. We all know this. So I'll spend the $100 on an idea. I want to send, used teddy bears to third world nations. Do they want that? Can they afford that? Right? And for everyone that gets bought, then I make a donation to a local food charity or something. I want to test this idea. So I can use Facebook and $100 to figure that out. Right? And it's such a powerful tool for that. So anything at all. Do you actually have to fulfill the request, or is this just, oh yes, great question, Peter. Yeah, by all means, if you are testing, so be honest about it, right? So let's go right back to the example and put a big bow on this, not to confuse people. Thank you, Peter. Luxury real estate, drone photography. Let's say I don't even own a drone yet, not even licensed, don't have insurance. I just want to see if people like it. So I put the ad, and I'm going to do the leads ad, because the leads ad, I don't even know how to program a website or anything, let's say. So what the leads ad will do is when they click the ad, it'll pop up a landing page right in Facebook. And the only options you have is an image across the top, some text, and a form. And that form is already pre-filled with their relevant user information. You don't get to see all of it, but first name will be filled out, that kind of stuff. And you can ask for specific fields, and you can even put in a couple of your own questions. So to answer yours, Peter, in that text, I would say drones, and list some stats. Drones have shown to decrease the time a luxury house is on the market by up to 50%. That means you can get twice as much done in the same amount of time. They've proven to be affordable and increase the value of, whatever. Get your stats and say, if you would like more information on how drones can actually help you sell more real estate, fill out the form below. And now you have a nurture campaign or not. And it's simply like, okay, I just had 600 realtors in West Vancouver say, yes, I would love to know more about drone photography. Cool. I think I might go buy a drone. I had 3 people ask for more information about drone photography. Well, I'm still going to send them the ebook, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to refer them to a local drone place. So, like the competition, if it exists, I'm going to do that. Or I'm going to send them out the information and then say, unfortunately, while we did these ads, what we learned is that while you are interested, and we're very grateful for that, that overall there is not a need for this at this time in Western Vancouver. Would you like us to keep you on the list if we decide in the future to pursue this again? Just be transparent and honest with people. That's all they want, right? But yeah, if you're actually promising something to someone, you definitely have to fulfill it, or that's going to get you a horrible reputation online really fast. Okay.
So I really appreciate you taking the time today. Where can people find you if they want to find out more about you and the How To Project?
Yeah, well, that's just it. So the easiest place to find me, I'll just pop it in there, is howtoproject.ca. We are a group of remote project managers. That's our primary business, first and foremost, dealing with larger enterprise business. During COVID, we've also started to work with businesses of all sizes to help them pivot and manage teams and projects remotely during these challenging times. Thanks to you as well, Craig. I always enjoy doing these things with you.
No, I know you've been rushed, and we rushed you back to this after work, and you thought it was 7, so I appreciate us working this all out, and it turned out to be a great session. So really appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for the questions. They were great, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
Right. Oh, one more question, Craig.
Oh,
Where can we find the slides?
okay. Is this the stuff you sent me?
That's right.
All right. I'll be emailing everyone out tomorrow morning that registered for this webinar. I'll
Awesome.
email everyone the slides. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.